Hi everyone, welcome to The Change. Our guest today was born and raised in a little town off the beautiful coast of Italy. He had his first job at the age of 12. Worked hard to pay for his education because of his desire to learn more. Started as a software engineer and worked his way up to becoming a head of products at PayPal. Founded the first P2P payment system in Italy as a head of payments at Ubibanca. He moved to Dubai to become a CEO of Noon Payments to help establishing the most innovative platform at the time in the region from scratch. He is currently heading customer experience and platform development in National Bank of Fujairah. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our guest today to The Change, Mr. Devid Jegerson. Hi,
Thank
David.
you for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So, okay, 14-year-old boy in a very small town in Italy called Deva Marina.
Like a little village. Very little village. It's like 1,558 people.
When you know a number that precisely, it's small.
It's very
small.
Yeah.
So
when you know everything about everyone.
Yes, exactly. There is nothing that you can hide.
Absolutely.
And you're 14 years old in a small town when you're facing the situation where you need to make a decision whether you're going to start working or whether you're going to work and earn for your studies.
Yeah.
What did you do?
What I did? I decided to work for gaining a lot of money for maintaining my study from the beginning. So I started to, at the age of 14, for making the season, the summer. I was in the coast of one of the beautiful coasts in Cinque Terre in Italy, and usually we have the main month of the summer, July, August, in which we have a lot of tourists. So I made the waiter and the bartender for many years actually, starting from 14, so that to gain some money for sustain my high school and try to have an opportunity. It's
amazing when especially when you're so young, different people have different experiences, and then at that time, depending on your situation, that really influence your life significantly later on. And the things that you learn when you're so young and when you need to start working so you can, pay for your studies and to be almost independent is amazing, right?
I mean, for me it's been really amazing, because in that moment you don't realize that how much is important.
You don't know. You think
you don't know. You complain because you have to work for have some money for proceeding your life. But again, you're realizing later how much is important in that specific moment in your life. Having that kind of experience, because I still recall some specific feedback that I got from my boss, which, when I worked in Deva, and he told me.
I think that's an interesting part that I know, but viewers don't know. You had a very special mentor in your life when you were very. At the time, you didn't realize he's your mentor, probably. He was just your boss, right?
Of course not.
What was his name? What was his nickname?
The nickname was Ciappellini. You know why? Because he worked with my father decades before. Because my father was an artisan putting making the floors.
Tiles,
the tiles, tiles, and putting the tiles in the floor. And he usually helping do this kind of work. And in local dialect, the tile are ciappelle. So it's Ciappellini. So everyone was calling Ciappellini. So this man, that was very particular man, very good son man. He taught me on doing the job with some specific feedbacks, doing in the right moment in the day, that in that moment you don't realize. You just I realized it later, and I think that he built the foundation of my professional approach later, in the decades later.
No, especially in that, and it's really funny, and that's I think it's never going to change. While you are at that age, you're extremely bored about all of these advices that you're getting about life, and you're like, okay,
I'm not bored. You can really complain about it because it's like I'm never doing correctly what I'm doing. And for example, be efficient, be really sorting the thing, putting the glass in the same place, so that every time you just in your brain knows that is it in that place. It's like pieces of efficiencies that you are doing every day. For example, when you are going out in the patio to get something to bring to service the order. When you come back, please remind if there is something already consumed, pick up
on your way
and go back. And just to have never been with free hands and empty-handed. And just few things that I think that driving your way to think, right?
Yeah,
that's very important.
But I guess although you're not aware, but at that point of your life, you're most open to absorbing all of these advices. Although
when you are a teenager,
like that, but I remember my father, for example, and he'll be watching this. But so his technique was like every day telling me something.
It's like a drop on the rock, right?
And although I'm still not sure about that technique, whether it works or
actually,
not, it seems like it worked in some aspects.
There are two ways to learn things. That's from common research. The first one is by repetition. You are reading something, and that's the one way in which you are let your synapses to create an information, right? And bold this kind of synapses. The other way is keeping your sense very open. Like for example, when you get scared in a specific moment, and you record later everything about that specific moment, because you are opening completely the sense in that moment because you are scared. And your body is opening your sense. So that's the other thing.
Yeah.
And when you love something, it's like opening your sense, and then you're learning better.
Yeah.
Things.
People will do their research now after our interview, and they will look your name up in Google and so on. So you'll have a chance to read
very common.
The interest. Very common, but when you type in, you have 8 pages of results. But
But because I have 25 years of experience, so a lot of.
But I had the chance to read when you were writing about your experience with Cipollini, and then picked up a couple of hints and a couple of lessons that you learned from him. And then one was always 5 minutes before, always 5 minutes after.
For having respect to the others, because when you are late in the job, for example, that there are some turns, right, that you have to respect. If I have to be at 8 o'clock there and to substitute another person, if I'm going late, potentially I am pushing the one previous me in the previous turn to going late, right?
Yeah.
So it's not fair.
Yeah.
So we need to, and also to prepare your job in a day, right?
Yeah.
To sort the things, to understand which is situation, and then start up.
Yeah.
It's like. Nowadays, for example, when I face the coming week, I used to the evening before just to set up the things what I have to do in the next week, the meetings or calls or stuff like that. It's a way to prepare. To get
to be organized to increase the efficiency of your week. I had a thought. We're going to edit this, but let me just remember about planning. But in general, you said 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after, and obviously there are different cultures across the globe, and this country in particular is very specific because you have so many cultures in one country, and then it's it's hard. It's hard to. There is no pattern about it. What do you think about this rule of 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after in our region?
You can apply actually in everything. To be honest, it's a good way to execute correctly a plan, right?
Yeah.
in the day-by-day activities. Having a plan is a good way to at least oversee how could execute a specific initiative, a specific project, right?
Exactly.
And this is good when you have a lot of information at the beginning. When you don't have a lot of information at the beginning, as specifically in this moment in which the market are pretty unstable and you are not able to think what you can do in the next 3 months, then you have to be open enough to subdivide and split and review very quickly your plans.
For sure.
To be flexible enough. Because following strictly a plan, you don't have to fall to be so rigid in executing something because potentially you can lose the side of
like the perspective,
of the overall perspective, right?
No, of course, but having a plan in place is the beginning of a great journey where you're going to achieve something. But sticking to that plan, regardless of your surrounding,
is way too much rigid, right?
I wouldn't call it the best move that you can do. All right, so and then fast forward a couple of years from that 14th birthday in Italy, and now after working with PayPal, after working with UP Banca, launching all of these projects.
So you're jumping on 2000, 2005.
You're jumping. No, I'm going to jump you straight here in 2020. So after all this experience with these major companies, you are currently, after launching a successful startup, Noon Payments here, acting as a CEO, and now leading customer experience and platform development for National Bank of Fujairah. For someone to become what you became, considering where you started, it takes a lot of persistent focus, planning. What kept you moving all these years?
I would say that there was no plan at the beginning. To be honest, to be honest, no, because I mean, you can connect the dot at the end, right?
And then it all makes sense.
I mean, if I would connect the dot at the end nowadays and try to go back and understand, the clear path is that drive me. First of all, is the passion of what I'm doing. That is something that everyone is saying, okay, but for example, I started like a software engineer because I really like coding software.
What part of that did you like?
The coding is like literally writing code and look the code running. It's like
building something,
creating something and see how your creation is getting live. It's running. It's something really that means a lot of burst in motivation, and also the creating something that getting shaped by himself. It's very good. So this is something that drive me. Coding software is, in my view, structure your mind. Structure your mind to try to plan because the code is a sequential instruction, right? Okay, I'm not talking about the object or dependencies or classes or stuff like that, but essentially it's a sequential instruction. And what we are doing in the organization nowadays is a sequential of things, right? This helped me a lot in looking the initiatives as a sequential of steps and try to execute correctly this kind of sequential steps.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I have the opportunity to work with quite a lot of programmers and engineers, and you can exactly see how, they're obviously in the engineering, but the way how their mind operates is engineered.
Yeah.
It's an amazing logic.
It's not something that you born with. I think you know that the behavior is based on 49% of who you are, and 51% the environment. Right. So I'm not saying that you are you need to have something like that, but you can learn. I think you can learn, and it's very useful.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you can see. I mean, I like what you said. You like building and things, and then seeing them live, delivering some value, and then you can see throughout your career that in every company and environment you've been, you were actually creating something, some new product, some new company. Or
there's another thing that I spent my life in 3-4 startups, also maybe 5 in something. But and being a startup, there is a component of visualizing what you are doing that for me is really, really important. I mean, the execution of what, how you visualize where and what you are building. And also the visualization of what we are doing is something you can learn. It's you know that everyone has a grade of it's called in neurolinguistics, it's called visual and kinetics and analytic, right? There's kind of theory that thinks that says that everyone is using the sense as a percentage more than others, and this kind of behave in using your sense is coming from how you start in your first years of your life, right?
When you're shaped.
Is a grade of something. You're not just one. It's blended, right? But there are the one that they are recalling fact by visually. They are the one that recalling fact by the sensation of touching something or the taste, and the one that are usually recalling things or doing things by sound, right? Yeah. So. And typically,
where do you fall?
There are some tests that tell you how you
can exactly tell you.
The grade of each this kind of category, and I'm falling in the visual. Person plus for example, how you choose your car. If you're choosing for the style or the design, you are typically visual. If you're choosing because you are really getting comfortable, it's just maybe someone that is a kinetic.
So I'd say that
right?
Most of the Italians are visual.
No, I don't know that. I don't know, but you know that there is also a lot of kinetics guy because they are the one that Ferrari, for example, they put they register the kind of sound of the engine of the car, so that the Ferrari has a specific how you call it the patent. They patent the kind of sound of the engine, right? That seems that the sound of the engine, the kind of touching your wheel, the engine. These are the sound of
the whole experience.
The entire experience is involving all your sense. To say that it's not just design that is beautiful, Ferrari or whatever, but it's also part of sound, touching, the feelings of when you are accelerating, the feeling of your belly when you are getting deeper. Is that kind of
amazing? Amazing. No, I definitely. I mean, across different methodologies and approaches, there is a talk about visualization and how important it is to have a vision where you're heading, right? Maybe that can be introduction to our topic. So currently, you are basically managing the strategy of customer experience and platform development for National Bank of Fujairah.
Actually, is a bit different in sense of I'm taking care about the digital transformation project, digital transformation initiative in NBF. What does it mean? It's been taking NBF in a journey in which transforming the way in which they are using the digital tools. For what?
Internally?
For improving internally and in the back end to keep much more efficient the internal process, but also externally in using the digital approach to change the way in which we are building the product and the services for the clients, and tailor this kind of product and services for the clients through an amazing customer experience. at the end, why in my title is customer experience and platform development, because in that way, using the digital for that kind of reason. There is no CDO, there is no the purpose of for a corporate, for an organization, using properly the digital tools is for that reason, for tailoring better, to getting closer to your customer and letting them to be much more close to you and having a really good experience, and then reinforcing the relationship that you have as an organization with the customer through the digital tools.
Or what they say, who is the first one who is going to notice the inefficiency or the flaws of your internal organization?
In my view, all the banks, in sense of my point is that everyone has this kind of mindset to have a customer experience, whatever it be internal or external, that should be improved.
Yeah.
So when I exchange a piece of paper or whatever between HR and me, I would let the experience between us should be amazing. And so just a one click and something like that.
What to build on top of that is that the first one who is going to notice the flaws in your internal organization is the customer. To build on top of what you said, because you said platform development and digitally transforming how we operate so that we can cater the needs of our customers better.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's not an interesting question. What changed in customer experience from 1980s when you were bartender to 2020s when you were having customer experience transformation in one of the banks in this very developed region?
There are two aspects. Let me tell you what I learned. The things that I learned when I was a bartender or waiter or whatever is the sense of serving the client. The sense of serving the client with the best approach possible, with a smile, letting the customer to be in the right confidence in receiving your product and service. So it is an holistic way, starting from the beginning. You are producing the product, the things that you are serving, like the cappuccino, the coffee, whatever, or the cafe. The way in which you are doing, for example, in recalling the specific taste of your customer. If he wants to have the coffee short or long, or in a specific cup or not, right? This kind of aspect is something that I learned there in that moment.
And nothing changed.
This is a culture of serving someone that is based everything in my view.
And it's been with us for centuries.
I think so. Yeah. And if you take now the technology, how the technology drive our experience. For example, now this is something that is like that from 10 years ago. The experience of having a smartphone and everything, all the services inside this kind of smartphone with an access in just one click, that is driving a lot, right? Your experience and your expectation, by the way, because if I got an app, the bank app in my smartphone that expect to provide my bank services, I would expect to access this kind of services in one click, right? Very easily, without suction or without obstacle or having very long processes or experience.
Absolutely. What's interesting, if we compare now, I bring your early mentor in picture, Cipollino. Cipollini. So, who was Cipollini competing with before? I was competing with a couple of other cafes in his neighborhood, and he was competing maybe with a couple of cafes in nearby towns, right? That was it. But who would be Cipollini competing with today? He would be competing with the whole world. There is this whole Instagram madness, which is setting up the expectation of interior design, the expectations of how your cappuccino will, the latte art, how your cappuccino will be served.
But you see, that's perfectly correct in my view, in the sense of how you differentiate your business, the way in which you are serving your clients, the way in which you are delivering the value for your clients is really something that differentiates you with others, right? Which is a premium of getting something the specific. Why you are going back in the same bar? Because there is that kind of guy that give you the specific coffee as you want. The cappuccino with blended with something, whatever. Because he knows you and created something as you expect, right? Is something that you can bring everywhere.
No, that's
and to do it, you have to learn from the first touch point that you have with the clients, because it's not always like that. The first time that the clients approach you, you don't know. But is it something that the relationship is improving step by step, touch point by touch point? But the things that you have to learn as a provider, you have to learn the taste of your clients in serving and try to understand the taste. Right. So now, how you understand the taste in a digital version? Reading how your clients is behaving on your app, on your website. Try to understand. For example, when I was in PayPal, PayPal was really in the avant-garde in this kind of stuff. They streamline so well the payment process in a single button from a customer side. That was amazing. But you know why they did? They didn't how they did. They I'm talking about 2004, 2005, 2006 kind of period.
At the time that was like
still in that kind of moment, they understood that they need to create a unit of a bunch of people that for reading how was the behave of the cursor of the mouse or the clicking the customer gave in the web page, or not the app because it was so in the web page, to understand which is the standard way in which everyone is going, and where, for example, place in the right place the button to facilitate the customer to do the transaction. All these kind of things is like understanding, learning the best taste for your client, for your customer. You got my point?
Of course.
That is the way.
And what's interesting is that was 2004, and they were not the first one who were doing it. The companies were doing it even before. 20 years later, and it's still not a standard. People are talking about it. They're trying to do it, but it's not a standard.
Okay, let's say like that. You know the artisans in Italy. We have artisans.
Okay, maybe
artisans
I know,
are workers.
You can explain it to.
Our worker.
I'm gonna pretend I know, but we are explaining to the
our worker are typically known in Italy, in the north, also in the south of Italy, and they are craft the shoes, craft the tailor your suits. These are artisans. My dad was an artisan in putting the tailor in the floor. There are specific workers that are, and the way in which they are doing it is like an art.
It's an art, yeah.
Artisan.
That's
they are like an art because they are doing with their hand.
It's like handcrafted.
They don't industrialize the process in which they are doing, because each work is handmade.
Is Ferrari handmade?
Yeah, for some part is handmade. The value there is that is like the work is made like an art. Is shaped, crafted like with your hand, like an art, and is in something now. The way in which you are improving the customer experience, there are some tools, but it's still not industrialized. You apply some common rules that usually you are. It's like being an artisan in this space, right? It's like tailoring as much as you can your digital services, reading the behavior of customer in using your services.
So we're talking about listening. I would definitely agree. Customers building if there is such thing, customer experience is an art, and every business is different, every environment is different, especially when we're talking about huge corporate, which is a very complex system where you need to put all people to work together. Okay, you got it, maybe I got it, I understand, but how to make the whole team understand, whole company understands it, and then execute it. I think that's one of your one of your roles now, right?
This is a huge topic that you're touching, because that's one of the main difference between the big organization and the small organization like fintechs, for example, right? We are collaborating a lot with the fintechs. I call it fintech teams, because for me our startup teams.
When you say fintech, what do you mean by fintech?
I mean teams, little small startups that are creating financial products in the space of the banking industry and financial industry. In my experience, one of the main difference between the two kind of organization, I mean, the classic, the traditional bank, big bank is a big organization. These are small team, very small, very focused. The point is where are focus on? Because these small teams, they are creating quickly products that fix a specific force or problem in the market.
Niche.
The way in which they are doing it is like a startup. They are living on their product. They are extremely focused on the customer experience, to delight the customer, because they are seeking for the fund to stay alive. There is no any other way to do it, right? They don't have plan B. So they are really sharp in find the best solution and sharp it and create it and going through different versions to try to delight and listening the customer, try to reach the perfect product for the customer. This is a customer orientation. This is a customer orientation that I don't want to generalize so much, but typically the big organization they don't have, because they are much more.
They can't, or they don't have. They don't understand.
No, they don't have, because the structure of organization, they pull themselves much more on the insider focus instead of outside focus, right? To be compliant on the, for example, regulation, to be efficient, to be extra efficient, that kind of focus are pull you off from the customer focus, right? And these are one of the main, in my view, difference between the small organization, in this case, the fintechs, small teams, startups, with the bank, with the big organization. And they are not alternative at all, actually. They can complement a lot in bringing all together some aspect of the way they are doing things to delight the customer. Because, for example, small business, small startups, they are not so well, let me say, oriented to follow the regulation, or they don't know maybe, right? But they are really good in creating something. Technology advanced, because typically these teams are created by a marketer with a strong business acumen, and a really like a CTO that know very well how to use the specific technology in deep for solving that kind of problem. Typically, this is the combination of the two, and the team plus all the other part of the components of the team. But they are fixing the problem, not having in mind how to fix it in the from a relation perspective. So the combination of the two is the best, right? So now we're talking about, in the last years, how we can let them to collaborate at the best, creating creating zone in which they can play all together, bringing each other their advantage, their features, in building all together something, right?
I think this is a huge topic, and I don't think there is a strategy, obviously, that one can take. Executing that strategy, I mean, this is leading us to a question, okay, when you put together a corporate and a startup, what happens when you get too close? Then one starts influencing another, and usually the corporate who starts influencing the startup too much, and then at one point even startup and the agile, lean organization becomes limited by the limits that corporate had before.
The problem and looking at the limits, in my view, because if you're approaching like an open innovation, also another concept that has been really talked a lot. But if you're talking about open innovation is something that you can create it externally, internally, vice versa, a combination of the two. How growth, this kind of initiative can be starting internal, can be vice versa. You can spin off, spin in. You can do that. Is the sense. The point is that both of the two, the small startup and the big organization, should be open enough to understand that the innovation in creating something really useful should be done without boundaries. But you know better than me that specifically in the banks, when you touch money, the core business is really important to keep it safe.
Of course.
So it's difficult to inject a startup that has no rule or a different pace in which they are doing things in a bank.
Of course.
Maybe it's good creating a zone in which, like a sandbox, in which both of them can play.
But at one point they will have to work together.
Yeah.
At one point they will have to work together, and at that point you will face again the same struggle.
Look, we are from the last years working a lot with fintech startups because we decided to decrease a bit more the boundaries that we have with the market and be open enough for looking at what they are doing is fantastic teams and in the way in which they are using the technology, the way in which we are not, right? So we started 2 years ago to create opportunities, chance to get in together and try to find the way in which we are doing it. We did. We launched some products. We worked together. Sometimes we worked externally by themselves. Sometimes we invited the fintech to work inside us with creating something. But again, in my view, there is no specific formula. The point is that try to find a place in which both of them can create and coexist and produce something that is good and always in mind the customer.
Yeah, no, definitely. But at the same time, you would say that improving and changing internally as a corporate needs to happen. We need to stay up. We need to improve. We need to become more agile. We need to become more innovative, and all of these fancy terms that people are using these days. And so that we can achieve customer experience. We can't rely only on fintechs, and although they can boost our business hugely, organization itself needs to progress. If we talk about customer experience now with NBF, and you guys have been recognized as one of the best banks for SMEs over the previous years, and you've been focusing a lot on small and medium enterprises. What are some of the stuff that your team is currently working on, kind of to boost up the whole relationship with your customers, and how are you actually putting now this theory that we have in practice?
Actually, we did from last year, in starting with recognizing that we have an important position. NBF has always been an important position towards SME. And SME is recognized as one of the best resources in this region, and the way in which they are creating and the pace
of companies or something like that.
The 8% of the company, yes, is a corporate.
Are SME, right?
Yeah, as SME, The point is that so we interrogate ourselves in how we can leverage a really strong relationship that we already have with the SME, without spoiling actually that kind of really good relationship, but try to add something that would improve from a digital perspective, right? And on top of that, try to do it changing the rules in the way in which typically doing things. Thinking, reversing a bit.
Reverse engineering.
Reverse engineering, yes. Starting to think, okay, we could have in mind how could be a digital platform built specifically for this kind of target. I said, we could have. We are bankers. We can try to. But what if we are trying to erase what we know and try to ask directly to our clients, SME clients, how they could think at the best, how could be the best digital platform for them. This is what we did from last year. So we decided last year to build something, changing the rule, involving from the beginning the customer, the SME, in the project. It was a bit bad because so involving customer in a project.
You actually involve customers in the whole process.
We involved from the beginning the customer in each single phase of the project, and we take a bit bad, to be honest, because the risk was, in my experience, you can execute a program, a plan, if you define the kind of where you are going, right? We decide to involving the clients in the project, accepting the risk of having a chaos in the project. Because what about if the customer starting to have completely different feedbacks and drive you in different paths?
How to manage,
So how to manage it? How you? So we got our risk. We took our risk, but with a sort of ingredient in keep it clear the rules of the play which we are playing the project. Try to drive in some part of the project specifically the feedbacks or asking them the right question, because every time is asking them the right question, specific question, or an open question enough open to let them to get the right big picture from them. So we need, and that's because we were convinced that it's not just approaching in an agile way with the pure agile. Actually, I'm thinking there is no the pure agile. We are trying. What we did is to try to follow the main rule of the agile, changing the mindset, and apply to all the project in what we did. And this was the foundation of the SME platform.
So that, in simple words, that would be building an SME platform with SMEs. So you directly although it sounds to me like a big thing to do, but involving your customers directly in the process of building a platform for them.
If I will tell you, it's like asking to a community to ask the community to build their own platform.
Wow.
And letting them to be served by us as a builder to create their own platform. But this is what we did.
Yeah. Doesn't it's so obvious, right? When you look at it and you would say, well, of course you're going to do that. If you want to build a product for your customers, obviously you would like to know what kind of product they would like to get, right?
This was a challenge.
Doesn't that sound obvious? But how often can we actually see that in practice? One could argue, and we can say, yes, we are doing it or we are not doing it, but this is a question for everyone to ask themselves. How often do we actually ask our customers and clients sincerely and openly, what do you want?
I don't know. I mean, I know that we are asking them a lot, and specifically in this kind of project, we learn on
Which is amazing.
how many times and how involved the customers inside the project.
What was the takeaway from that whole process with you and your team and the platform? The platform is now live, or?
The platform is alive from end of March, and Q1. Actually, we went live with MVP at the end of last year. MVP means very few features, but working feature.
Sure.
Then a reshape, adding on top of this MVP more feature to create. It's like in the agile purists, they are talking about creating a bicycle starting from the wheels and then the driver and adding the pieces. It's not like that actually. It's starting from a motorcycle, really little, and then getting on top, building up towards a car, right? And we did the same. Starting with MVP, few basic feature, but working all together in a holistic way, plus adding more features in the next quarter, and so on and so on. We are delivering another version with more feature on top, and the way in which we are doing it is interrogating, involving, asking to the community, because now we have a community of SME that involving our clients, not clients, everyone, that are happy to share their feedbacks with us, because they know that we are building their own platform, digital platform, and they are really happy, and we are happy to serve them.
Which is super important. That's inspiring. I have a question. Obviously you have a vision, and coming back now to the topic, it's important to have a vision when you join NBF. I'm sure that you had a vision where you want to be with NBF at a certain point. What are currently the biggest challenges that you're facing on the road to that vision, regardless of what the vision is? We don't need to get into that. Maybe that's confidential.
No, first of all, the vision is as I call the point B, because the point B in sense of in the moment in which you have to create a vision, you are in point A. You have to bring the organization in a point B in the time, in the following 3-5 years, right? The real question is how you get the organization there in the point B.
Like a lot of
First of all, you have to define what is the point B. For me, at the beginning, it was we want to be in the point B is having an organization in which we are using the digital tools and digital skills to serving the clients as the best, creating tailored and personalized services to letting them to have the best experience with us. This is the way in which the organization will compete in the next future, and this is actual. It's something very important. Then we will define a journey. The journey is just trying to define a series of steps that you are trying to figure out is a path that take you from point A towards a point B. You can imagine how could be the series of steps. For example, for us was a first phase in which we are mobilizing everyone to be open enough to get aside what is happening what is happening to the market, on how the others are using the digital tools, how is the main trend on the digital, on the technology, and how the customers are using technology. Then and a first approach on the agile and why it's important to be agile in that kind of moment in the life in the market. Then the second phase is how to use the data, how you are governing the data that is owned by your customer. By the way, you can be a bank, of course, but the data is owned by the customer. How you are governing everything, and then on top of that, how then you are using the data of the customer, reading the data of the customer to creating the best, serving the best product and services for them. That is in main three step, the journey. Of course, each single step is could contain a lot of initiative, a lot of project, a lot of activities that is let you to hand the first phase, each single phase, right? A sort of KPI that give you the sense of how you're reaching the end of the phase.
Yeah, and if we take, you're familiar with Giro d'Italia, the
tappa, each single tappa.
Tacca,
yeah. You get perfectly the point.
So, and now if you have the overview of the tappa, you have the hill and then you downhill and the hill and then you downhill. So what are the biggest hills now that you need to go over on your journey?
For us, the Giro d'Italia is from the start to the end. And each single phase, each single Giro, each single tappa.
Tappa, yeah.
We have 3 tappe until we reach the point B, our vision. It's a journey. And the points that, that was the first exercise, define it. The second exercise is to structure yourself to be open enough to accept that your journey could be very variable and very difficult.
You can go to Tour de France.
Very true. No, you will face a lot of, hills. You will be.
What are the biggest currently the biggest blockers, but obstacles that you need to go over in order to reach the plan B?
A lot of obstacles can be sometimes regulation, sometimes culture, sometimes procedural, sometimes mistakes that you are doing. How many mistakes you are doing? For example, in SME platform, when we are expecting to know how the feedback could be. So, for example, this is something that I will not ask because I know by definition, because of my experience and my experience, that this will be like that. And this is the classical mistake.
Yeah.
Then you develop something.
You do it just because I know.
When you have the first feedback, they said, I made a mistake.
Which is
when you're pretending to know, pretending to know something that instead of asking your question, your customer, the things. This is a classical mistake.
Yeah. Maybe
that's the value to involving your customer in the journey. I'm not saying that involving the customer is something easy to do it in a start. It's not at all. Actually, it's much more difficult to do it. Extremely difficult. But that's the game.
Yeah.
You want really to serve as I did, as I was a bartender. You have to listen. In the meanwhile that you are doing your work, you have to raise your ear and talking with your customer and try to learn from him. Try to ask, how do you think about my coffee? Is it something you like it? No, he said, maybe no, it's too long. Can you keep it short? Then, okay, next time, if you have the fortune to have again the customer,
if he gives you that
opportunity, then you have to recall that he wants to have the short coffee. Always with his mind, because you need to keep him comfortable, right?
Yeah. No, it's absolutely amazing. How can you compare small organization, which is still an organization like cafe, and preparing a coffee with huge corporations and banks in this case? This requires a significant culture change internally to deliver this kind of customer experience. How do you go around that? What's your strategy on culture change?
Look how is happening the sharing information in the network, in social network. If you look at the dynamics, there are some influencer, there are some. First of all, I don't believe that the dictatorship leadership can apply the change. It could be in some specific organization. The military and strict hierarchy organization. This could happen, but usually the change. First of all, the change is mean the change because there is a resistance, and the amount of resistance that you have is how much you are changing organization, right? The changing the things that you are trying to change. So it's normal to have a resistance. Point one. Don't fight the resistance, because this means that you are getting well your job. You are doing well your job. We are doing My experience in NBF, how you change things culturally, is to try to make your homework and try to convince others by results. You see, saying, "Oh, my organization has changed," means that the Gaussian curve.
We'll say that I know, but viewers don't know.
Well, you can say that your organization has changed when a specific percentage, the main percentage of the person that are part of the organization are getting your change in mindset, right? And typically, the frequency of overall population is distributed in a frequency as like Gaussian is distribution, right? You have the Q of this kind of distribution representing the early adopters and the late adopters, and in the majority of them. You can say that you are changing something when the majority of the population has really changed, right? So how you convince these guys that they're accepting the change? The approach is to let not you convince them, but let these guys, the early adopters,
ambassadors,
convince them, right? So the job is to create a good bunch of early adopters, the good jump of early, the one that is they are working, they are spreading for you as an influencer the change in organization. This is how dynamics going. And if you are able to cross the chasm, to cross the momentum, because there is a tipping point in which these guys are influencing that, and then it's quite you're getting easy.
Yeah, I'm getting it. Right. So you have your plan, you have your point B, that is how far away, like 2-3 years now? Where does it sit?
I don't know. We are quite in the middle of the journey. So yeah.
If you need to put
yeah, but again,
there's a question coming.
You are part of an industry, a market.
Yeah.
You have to take. You have to be aware that market is changing.
Yeah.
Consumer is changing. The point is that you have to listen which are the trends, and getting and adapt to this kind of trends and adapt your plans, your journey.
Yeah, yeah. What's preventing you from meeting point B instead of 2 years in next 3 months?
It's like a woman that make a child in 1 month, 9 child in 1 month instead of 1 child
in 1 month.
It's impossible. It's the curse of the nature. It takes time. You need time to change things.
Yeah.
Change is not as we share, especially when humans are involved in this kind of change. It takes time.
David, amazing conversations always. It was truly inspiring. I hope that you picked up some good inspirations and ideas about customer experience. It's truly extremely important that we talk about it, and to see everyone implementing these techniques more. David, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
I hope that we're going to see each other again in, let's say, 1 year, just to recap and see where you're at now. With are you on the point B or even beyond? Until then, please like and subscribe, and see you in our next episode. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.